Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an idea that could completely change how you look at your life, your problems, and your energy.
So, let me ask you this. Do you ever just feel like you're running on fumes? You know that feeling, right? When your phone hits that dreaded 1% battery and it goes into low power mode, just trying to keep the absolute basics running? Well, sometimes life can feel exactly like that. You know the drill. You pour all your energy into crushing it at work, but then you realize your health is tanking. Or maybe you get your fitness on track, but your relationships start to suffer. It feels like this constant, exhausting game of whack-a-mole where you can never quite get everything sorted at once. But what if I told you there's a different way? What if you didn't have to fix everything piece by piece? The source material we're digging into today talks about a single master key, one big idea designed to recharge your entire life all at the same time. All right, let's get into it.
So, first things first, let's put a name to that feeling we were just talking about. The source calls it operating at 1% power. It's basically living in a state of energy conservation, where you're always having to make these tough choices about which part of your life gets the tiny bit of juice you have left.
And this is kind of what it looks like. You can see how our energy gets split between these big areas: love, finance, social life, and health. When we're in that low power node, we might throw a huge chunk of our battery, say 42%, into our career and finances. But look at the trade-off. Our love life is sputtering along at 11%. We're constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul because there just isn't enough power to go around. So how in the world do you break out of a cycle like that? Well, the source material gives us this really fascinating story of someone who did just that. It calls it the Red Ribbon Quantum Leap.
So check out this journey. It follows the author Mai Andre, who had truly hit rock bottom. We're talking a failed business, crushing debt, and deep depression. But then, she found some new ideas in books, and it sparked a personal experiment she called the Red Ribbon Challenge. For 21 days, she made a pact with herself to focus only on positivity. And the result? It was like a lightning strike, a quantum leap. A video she made went viral, and that event led directly to her clearing that massive debt.
So what really changed for her? It was all about this fundamental shift in her perspective. This quote here says, "Eu tomei as rédeas da minha própria vida," which just means, I took the reins of my own life. See, she stopped being a victim of her circumstances and decided to become the conscious creator of her reality.
So, what was the secret? What was the power source behind that incredible transformation? Well, that brings us right to the heart of this whole explainer, the master key. And the source calls it your divine spark.
The whole idea boils down to a choice between two forces that are always operating inside of us. On one side, you've got the ego. Think of it as the character you play in life. It's temporary, it runs on fear, and it only has access to that little 1% of your power. But then, on the other side, you have the divine spark. That's the real you. It's eternal, it's powered by pure, unconditional love, and it holds the other 99% of your power. And here's the thing, you get to choose which one is in the driver's seat.
And that's exactly why this master key analogy is so powerful. I mean, why would you run around frantically trying to find 100 different little keys to fix 100 different problems? Connecting with your divine spark is like having that one master key that opens every single door. Health, money, love, all at once.
Okay, that all sounds great. But how do you actually use this key? How does it work in the real world? That brings us to the practical part, a really simple, three-step creative process.
So according to the source, bringing something new into your life is a three-part dance. Step 1 is ask. Life's challenges and contrasts naturally make us ask for something better. That part's automatic. Step 2 is receive. The very second you ask, your divine spark, your higher self, answers. It instantly creates this energetic version of what you want. That's also automatic. Now, step 3. That's the one that's all on us. It's called allow. This is where you have to consciously work to release your own resistance, your doubt, your fear, so you can let the physical thing you asked for actually show up.
So if allowing is the most important step, and the one we have to do ourselves, how do we get better at it? Well, that brings us to our next section, which gives us 4 simple, daily practices to strengthen that connection and make allowing way easier.
The 4 big ones are meditation, appreciation, well-being, and intention. Now,
Let's just quickly break down what these really mean, because honestly, they're way simpler than they sound.
So first up, meditation. This isn't about forcing your mind to be perfectly blank or silent. No way. It's much easier than that. It's just about quieting the noise, turning down the volume on all those anxious, resistant thoughts, so you can finally hear that quieter, calmer voice of your true self.
Next is appreciation. I love how the source describes this. It's like meditating with your eyes open. It's just the simple act of being present and noticing the world around you without slapping a judgment on it. You know, actually tasting your coffee, feeling the sun on your skin. That's it. That's the whole practice.
Third, we have well-being. All this means is treating yourself the way that loving, divine part of you would. It's about giving yourself care, giving yourself rest, and doing things that actually bring you joy. That nap you're craving, the walk in the park, that's not being selfish. According to this philosophy, it's a non-negotiable act of connection.
And finally, there's intention. You could say that this is the secret sauce that makes all the other practices work. It's just making a conscious choice over and over to make that feeling of connection your #1 goal. More important than being right, more important than getting it all done. Your top priority.
And when you start to put these things into practice, you naturally arrive at this final really powerful idea. It's all about trusting the flow of life.
This last quote really just sums it all up perfectly. It says, "Confia na corrente do rio que te leva, o rio sabe o que faz." And that means trust the river's current that carries you. The river knows what it's doing. It's about finally putting down the oars, stopping the struggle, and having faith that the current of life is taking you exactly where you're supposed to go. So I'll just leave you with this question to mull over. If you really, truly trusted that flow, if you believed deep down that the river knows what it's doing, what's one thing you would stop fighting against in your own life? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining us on The Explainer.